I don't know how many of you really believe in Romans 8:28, that God causes all things to work together for the good of them that love him and are called according to his purpose. But I have seen it play out in my own life. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the fairy tale about a little imp that spun straw into gold. I remember when my son was very small, if he got a timeout in a corner, he had a tendency to treat that corner like a paradise. He would make shadow puppets, which I didn't even know how he had learned how to do that. And it really didn't come across as if he were being punished or getting a consequence. And it gave me an idea on how to think in my own life about what seemed to be a difficult situation that might not be if I look at it more closely, or that I could turn it into something positive. And that's what happened in colonial Louisiana in the 18th century when an edict titled the Tignon Law went into effect, and it required the women who were freed, black ex slaves, to wear their hair covered. And what they did was they turned that law on its ear and began to wear decorative headwear. Their headwear could be made of silk, velvet, and they would decorate it with things like ribbons, feathers, different little folds, jewels, ribbons, and they became a thing of beauty. And I think this is a perfect example of a kind of spinning straw into gold or making lemonade out of lemons. And I want to share my story a little bit and use this headwear to share a little bit about me. So you could call it Tignon Storytelling. And then at the end, I want to invite you to join me. But stay to the end of the video so I can explain what this will entail. And once again, I would love for you to join me. I'm going to use 1 Peter chapter 2, verses 9 and 10, that talks about how Christians are called out of darkness and into God's marvelous light, and who are a chosen people and a royal priesthood, a holy nation in God's special possession. That we have also received mercy to proclaim the praises of God. Now, I mentioned that because there was such a thing as priestly garments in the Old Testament. The priest had to wear specific garments that set him apart. And I will talk more about that scripture as well as some other scriptural context in a separate video. Please watch that video as well, which should be recorded later this week. At any rate, I actually am wearing a headwear or that I decorated. And I did it to tell my story. And that's what I would love for you to do over the next several weeks. So this came plain, but what I have added is on both sides a Christian cross because I am a Christian. Now, on these two sides are different kinds of little beads. They're part of charms that fell off of one of my purses while I was in a store, and I picked them up and decided to recycle them. So they are not symmetrical because I do love asymmetrical design in many cases, but one of them is more iridescent than the other. And that is because this week with my students, I am a school teacher, we are going to be covering the word iridescent. And so I also have um, pretzel on one side. Sorry. I have a pretzel, and that is on there because I happen to love pretzels, and especially Auntie Annie's pretzels. I also have a little bitty green bead. And this bead is actually very small, but it represents my birthstone, which is green. And I do believe green is also a very beautiful color. All right, there's the pretzel. And so I also have on here a scarlet thread. Let's see, I sewed this on here along with a button. And the scarlet thread represents the scarlet thread of redemption that is woven through the Old and New Testament. I have a separate video that I'll be releasing this week that explains that scarlet thread of redemption that starts with Rahab, an interesting Old Testament character. Nevertheless, everything on here means something, and I am looking for a silver dollar without having to pay a lot of money. And because God has blessed me to be a writer, I'm also looking for something like a pen or a book charm. So if you find out where I can get any of those things without paying an arm and a leg, please comment below. At any rate, these charms also are symbolic of who I am, but they're not, like I said, the complete story. So I'm hoping to add additional charms. As an example, over here, sorry, on the opposite side here, I have a button because I do like to sew. And so the reason why sometimes I'm pointing on the wrong side is because I'm looking at a mirror image on the camera and it sometimes throws me off. But anyway, help me tell our stories in a very positive way, whether you're black, white, or other. Because as you know, or hopefully you know, the Tignon Law basically went out of vogue after Louisiana became part of the United States. It was when they were under French and Spanish rule that this law prevailed. And so there's always a way to take something that seems to be negative and turn it around. And so tell your story using a scarf with folds and other decor and find some charms to help you tell your story. They're easy to sew on in most cases. You don't have to get a full sewing kit. You can get a mending kit in a number of places like the Dollar Tree and similar stores. I'd love to hear your story and how you turn something around and how you can use Tignon Law or concepts for storytelling. This is men and women, and once again, any race. Join me in telling your Tignon story. God bless you. My name is Shirley A. Franklin. I'm a Christian. I'm blessed to be a special education teacher as well as an author. And I love fashion, but I'm not a slave to fashion. Have a great day.